Maya Patel had always been a woman of quiet determination. At 28, she worked as a cleaner at the Grand Horizon Resort, one of the most luxurious hotels on the coastline. Every day, she moved through the hotel's gleaming corridors, with her cart of cleaning supplies, tidying up rooms that overlooked the sparkling ocean. To the wealthy guests who passed her in the hallways, Maya was invisible, a blur of blue uniform and soft footsteps. But to those who took the time to notice, like her fellow staff members or the occasional kind guest, Maya was known for her warm smile and meticulous attention to detail. Her life wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. Maya lived alone in a small apartment just a few blocks from the hotel. Her days were predictable. Wake up early, catch the bus, work long hours, and return home to cook dinner while listening to old songs her grandmother used to play. Life hadn't given her much, but Maya had learned to find joy in the little things. A perfectly made bed, the scent of fresh linen, or the sound of waves crashing against the shore during her lunch break. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden hues across the sky, Maya found herself assigned to clean the penthouse suite. It was rare for her to be sent there. The penthouse was reserved for the hotel's most prestigious guests. As she pushed open the door, she noticed the room was already immaculate, save for a few scattered papers on the desk and an empty coffee cup left on the bedside table. Still, Maya got to work, humming softly under her breath as she straightened the cushions and wiped down surfaces. It was then that she heard it, a deep voice speaking rapidly in Dutch. Startled, Maya turned toward the sound. A tall man stood near the balcony, his back to her as he spoke into a phone. He wore an expensive suit, and his posture exuded authority. Maya recognized him immediately. This was Eric van der Haas, a billionaire businessman whose name often appeared in newspapers and magazines. His company was famous worldwide, and rumors swirled about his immense wealth and reclusive nature. Maya froze, unsure whether to announce her presence or slip out unnoticed. Before she could decide, Eric accidentally knocked his phone off the railing. It clattered onto the floor near Maya's feet. Instinctively, she bent down to pick it up. Just as she did, the caller on the other end spoke again, their words sharp and urgent. Without thinking, Maya pressed the phone to her ear and replied, in perfect Dutch. "Hello? Yes, I have the phone here," she said smoothly, her accent flawless. There was a brief pause on the line before the caller responded, clearly surprised by the sudden switch in voices. Maya held the phone out to Eric, who stared at her with wide eyes. "You speak Dutch?" he asked, his tone laced with disbelief. Maya nodded nervously. "Yes, sir. My grandmother taught me when I was young." Eric studied her for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then, without another word, he took the phone and resumed his conversation. Maya quickly returned to her tasks, her heart pounding. She couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just happened, though she didn't know what. Little did she realize, this chance encounter would set off a chain of events that would change her life forever. The next morning, Maya arrived at work feeling a mix of nervousness and curiosity. She replayed the events of the previous evening in her mind, the dropped phone, the impromptu conversation in Dutch, and Eric van der Haas's piercing gaze. Though she tried to brush it off as just another strange moment in her day, something about the encounter lingered with her. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had left an impression on him, though she wasn't sure whether it was good or bad. As she clocked in for her shift, the head housekeeper approached her with an unusual request. "Maya," she said, glancing at a note in her hand, "Mr. van der Haas has specifically asked for you to clean his suite again today." Maya blinked in surprise. "Me? Are you sure?" The housekeeper nodded firmly. "Yes, he mentioned your name. Apparently you made quite the impression yesterday." Her stomach churned with unease. Being summoned by a guest, especially one as important as Eric, was unheard of. Most guests barely acknowledged the cleaning staff, let alone requested them by name. Still, Maya knew better than to refuse. With a deep breath, she grabbed her cart and headed toward the penthouse suite, rehearsing polite greetings in her head. When she knocked on the door, Eric opened it himself. He looked slightly less formal today, wearing a simple button-down shirt. and slacks instead of his usual tailored suit. His sharp features softened when he saw her. "Ah, Maya," he said, stepping aside to let her in. "Thank you for coming." Maya hesitated, unsure of what to say. "Of course, sir. Is there anything specific you need cleaned?" Eric shook his head. "Actually, I wanted to ask if you'd be willing to help me with something else." He gestured for her to sit down on one of the plush armchairs near the window. Maya perched nervously on the edge, clutching her cleaning cloth like a lifeline. "I've been going over some documents related to my business back in the Netherlands," Eric began, pulling out a stack of papers from his briefcase. "Some of them are written entirely in Dutch, and while I understand most of it, there are parts I'd like translated more accurately, given your fluency." He paused, looking at her expectantly. "Would you be open to assisting me?" Maya stared at him, stunned. This was not what she had expected when she walked into the room. Helping a billionaire translate business documents felt worlds away from scrubbing toilets and making beds. I don't know much about business, sir," she stammered. "But I can try." To her relief, Eric smiled. "That's all I'm asking. Your language skills alone will be invaluable." Over the next few hours, Maya sat across from Eric, carefully reading through the documents and explaining their contents in clear, concise English. At first, she worried she might misinterpret something or embarrass herself, but Eric listened, intently, nodding along as she spoke. Occasionally he asked questions, and Maya found herself surprised by how easily the answers came to her. What struck Maya most, however, was how different Eric seemed compared to the stern, aloof man she'd seen in magazines. He wasn't just interested in her translations, he genuinely wanted to hear her thoughts. When they took a break for coffee, he asked about her background, how she learned Dutch, what brought her to the hotel, and what her dreams were. For the first time in years, Maya talked openly about her passion for languages and her childhood dream of becoming a linguist. By the end of the day, Maya realized she had done far more than translate documents. She had connected with someone who, despite his wealth and status, seemed profoundly lonely. And Eric, for his part, found himself fascinated by this quiet, intelligent woman who carried herself with grace and humility. As Maya packed up her things to leave, Eric stopped her at the door. "Thank you, Maya," he said sincerely. "You've been incredibly helpful. I hope we can continue working together." Maya smiled shyly. "I'd like that, sir." Neither of them realized yet how much this partnership would change both of their lives. Over the next few days, Maya and Eric fell into an unexpected rhythm. Each morning, Maya would arrive at the penthouse suite to find Eric already seated at the desk, surrounded by papers and his laptop. At first, their interactions were strictly professional. Maya translated documents, clarified phrases, and occasionally offered suggestions based on her understanding of Dutch culture. But as they spent more time together, small glimpses of their true selves began to surface. One afternoon, while going over a particularly dense contract, Eric paused and leaned back in his chair. "You're very good at this," he remarked, studying her thoughtfully. "Have you ever considered doing something like this full-time? Working with languages, I mean." Maya hesitated, caught off guard by the question. "I used to dream about it," she admitted softly. "When I was younger, I wanted to study linguistics and maybe even work as a translator. But life got in the way." She trailed off, unwilling to share too much. Eric tilted his head, sensing there was more to her story. "What happened?" he asked gently. For a moment, Maya debated whether to answer. It wasn't something she talked about often, not because it was painful, but because it felt like a distant memory. Finally, she sighed and said, "My family didn't have much money. After my grandmother passed away, I had to focus on finding steady work to help out. There wasn't room for dreams anymore." Eric listened silently, his expression unreadable. When she finished, he nodded slowly. "That must have been hard," he said. "But you still held on to your love for languages. That says a lot about who you are." His words surprised her. No one had ever praised her resilience before. It was simply how she lived her life. For the first time, Maya allowed herself to imagine what might have been if circumstances had been different. As the days went on, Eric also began opening up in ways he hadn't anticipated. One evening, after a long day of translating, he poured 2 cups of tea and handed one to Maya. "Tell me something," he said, his tone lighter than usual. "Do you think people can change?" Maya frowned, unsure where the question was coming from. "I suppose so," she replied cautiously. "Why, do you ask?" Eric stared out the window, his gaze distant. "Because sometimes I wonder if I've become someone I don't recognize. My company has given me everything: wealth, influence, respect. But it's also taken things away: relationships, peace of mind." He paused, then added quietly, "Happiness." Maya watched him carefully, seeing cracks in the polished facade he presented to the world. Beneath the tailored suits and commanding presence lay a man burdened by loneliness and regret. Though she didn't fully understand the weight of his responsibilities, she recognized the ache of longing in his voice. It reminded her of her own quiet struggles. "You seem happy enough now," she ventured softly, "at least when we're working together." A faint smile touched Eric's lips. "Maybe that's because I'm not thinking about all the things I've lost," he admitted. "For once, I'm just present." Their conversations grew deeper as the days passed, weaving threads of trust between them. Maya learned that Eric's success came at a cost. He rarely saw his family, avoided close friendships, and carried the guilt of choices made in pursuit of ambition. In turn, Eric discovered that Maya's strength ran far deeper than her modest demeanor suggested. Despite her hardships, she radiated kindness and optimism, qualities that drew him in like a magnet. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Eric looked at Maya and said, "You remind me of home, not just because of the language, but because of the way you make things feel. Simpler." Maya blushed, unsure how to respond. She couldn't deny that she felt drawn to him too, though she tried to push those feelings aside. Falling for a man like Eric seemed impossible and dangerous. Yet, every shared laugh, every meaningful glance, made it harder to ignore the growing connection between them. Neither of them realized yet how intertwined their lives were becoming, or how much their bond would challenge the boundaries of their worlds. It was a rainy Thursday morning when Eric approached Maya with an offer that would change everything. As she entered the penthouse suite, he stood by the window, gazing out at the gray sky and the waves crashing against the shore far below. His posture was unusually tense, as if he were bracing himself for something important. "Maya," he began without turning around, "I need your help with something significant." She set her cleaning cart aside and stepped closer, sensing the gravity in his voice. "Of course, sir, what is it?" Eric finally turned to face her, his expression serious but tinged with hesitation. "I'm traveling to Amsterdam next week for some critical business meetings. It's a high-stakes negotiation involving potential investors, and most of the discussions will be conducted in Dutch." He paused, searching her eyes. "I'd like you to come with me, not as a cleaner, but as my translator." Maya froze, her mind struggling to process what he had just said. "You want me to go to Amsterdam with you?" Her voice trembled slightly, equal parts excitement and disbelief. Eric nodded firmly. "Yes, you've proven yourself invaluable these past few days. Your fluency and insight are exactly what I need. Plus," he hesitated again, then added, softly, "I trust you." The weight of his words settled over her like a warm blanket. Trust wasn't something Eric gave lightly. She could see that in the way he carried himself, guarded and reserved. And yet here he was, offering her an opportunity that felt almost too good to be true. But doubts crept in quickly. "Sir, I'm not qualified for something like this," she protested. "I clean hotel rooms for a living. People like me don't step into boardrooms or fly to Europe with billionaires." Eric smiled faintly, his tone gentle but firm. "People like you deserve more than they think. This isn't charity, Maya. It's recognition of your skills. You're smart, capable, and adaptable. Those qualities matter more than any title or degree. His faith in her was both inspiring and terrifying. Maya spent the rest of the day wrestling with conflicting emotions. On one hand, the idea of leaving behind her predictable life, even temporarily, was thrilling. It was a chance to experience something extraordinary, to reconnect with a part of herself she'd buried long ago. On the other hand, fear whispered warnings in her ear. What if she failed? What if Eric regretted trusting her? What if others judged her harshly? That evening, Maya confided in her best friend Lila during their usual video call. "He wants me to go to Amsterdam," she explained, still breathless from the shock of it all. "As his translator." Lila's eyes widened. "Are you kidding? That's amazing. Why are you even hesitating?" "It's not that simple," Maya replied, twisting the hem of her sweater nervously. "What if I embarrass him or make a mistake? I don't belong in his world, Lila." Lila rolled her eyes affectionately. "Stop doubting yourself. You've worked hard your whole life and now someone finally sees your worth. Don't let fear hold you back. Besides," she added with a teasing grin, "when else are you going to get to see Amsterdam?" Her words lingered in Maya's mind, long after they ended the call. By the time she returned home, she had made up her mind. She would take the leap, not because she believed she was ready, but because she owed it to herself to try. The next morning, Maya met Eric in the lobby, her heart pounding as she handed him her answer. "I'll do it," she said firmly, meeting his gaze. "Thank you for believing in me." A slow smile spread across Eric's face, genuine and relieved. "You won't regret this, Maya. I promise." As they finalized the details of the trip, Maya couldn't help but feel a mix of anticipation and trepidation. She was stepping into uncharted territory, leaving behind the safety of her routine for a world she barely understood. Yet deep down, she knew this decision marked the beginning of something new, something transformative. Neither of them realized how much this journey would blur the lines between professional respect and personal connection, or how impossible it would become to ignore the growing bond between them. The flight to Amsterdam was unlike anything Maya had ever experienced. Eric had arranged for first-class seats, and as she settled into the plush leather chair, she couldn't help but marvel at the luxury surrounding her. The cabin crew treated her with the same level of respect they showed Eric, addressing her as Ms. Patel and offering her gourmet meals and champagne. For someone who spent most of her life blending into the background, it felt surreal and a little overwhelming. Eric noticed her quiet awe and leaned closer with a faint smile. "You're handling this better than I expected," he teased gently. "Most people would be overwhelmed by all this." Maya laughed softly, trying to mask her nerves. "I'm still pinching myself to make sure this isn't a dream." As the plane soared above the clouds, conversation flowed more easily between them. They talked about everything, their favorite books, childhood memories, and even their fears about the upcoming meetings. Eric admitted that he often felt out of place in high society circles, despite his wealth and success. "Sometimes I wonder if anyone sees the real me," he confessed, "or if they only see the billionaire." Maya nodded thoughtfully. "I think we all wear masks sometimes. It's just that yours is shinier than most." Her honesty made him chuckle, and for a moment, the tension in his shoulders eased. "You have a way of cutting through the noise, Maya. I appreciate that." When they arrived in Amsterdam, the city greeted them with its enchanting charm. Cobblestone streets wound past picturesque canals lined with narrow houses, their gabled facades reflected in the water below. Eric took Maya on a brief tour before diving into work, showing her landmarks like the Anne Frank House and the vibrant Jordan district. Though their schedule was packed, these small moments allowed Maya to catch glimpses of Eric's softer side, the man behind the polished exterior. But reality soon caught up with them. The first meeting took place in a sleek conference room overlooking the bustling Dam Square. Maya sat beside Eric, translating every word with precision and confidence. Her calm demeanor earned nods of approval from the investors, and Eric shot her grateful glances whenever she clarified a tricky phrase or offered cultural context. By the end of the day, they were both exhausted but triumphant. However, not everyone welcomed Maya's presence. Eric's business partner, Victor, eyed her with thinly veiled suspicion. During a coffee break, he cornered Eric in the hallway. "Who exactly is this girl?" he demanded, his tone sharp. "She's not part of our team." "She's here to assist me," Eric replied evenly, refusing to rise to the bait. "Her skills are invaluable," Victor scoffed. "Invaluable? She's a cleaner, Eric. What message does this send to our partners?" Eric's jaw tightened. "It sends the message that I value competence over titles. Don't question my decisions." Again. Though Eric dismissed Victor's concerns, rumors began circulating among the investors. Some whispered that Maya must have ulterior motives, while others speculated that Eric was using her as a publicity stunt. The whispers reached Maya during lunch when one of the junior associates casually asked, "So how did you manage to land such a glamorous role?" Maya forced a polite smile, her cheeks burning. "Hard work and good timing, I suppose." That night back at their hotel, a historic building overlooking the canal, Maya confided in Eric about the gossip. "I don't want to cause trouble for you," she said quietly. "Maybe I should step back." Eric shook his head firmly. "No, you've done nothing wrong. These people don't know you. They only see what they expect to see. But I do, Maya, and I won't let them undermine your contributions." His unwavering support touched her deeply, but it also highlighted the growing complexity of their relationship. With each passing day, Maya found herself drawn closer to Eric, not just professionally, but emotionally. Yet the gap between their worlds loomed large, casting shadows of doubt over her heart. Despite the challenges, Maya refused to let fear dictate her actions. She poured her energy into the meetings, earning respect through sheer determination and skill. By the end of the week, even some of the skeptics acknowledged her value. As they prepared to return home, Eric turned to her with a thoughtful expression. "This trip has changed things for both of us," he said. "Are you ready for what comes next?" Maya hesitated, unsure of the answer. But deep down, she knew one thing for certain. No matter what happened, she would never forget the journey that brought her here, or the man who dared to believe in her. The final day in Amsterdam arrived and tensions reached a boiling point. Victor, Eric's skeptical business partner, had grown increasingly hostile toward Maya. During a tense negotiation session, he openly questioned her presence, accusing her of being a distraction rather than an asset. "This isn't about competence," Victor snapped, glaring at Eric. "It's about optics. What will our investors think when they see you bringing someone like her into these discussions?" Maya flinched at the thinly veiled insult, but before she could respond, Eric stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the polished floor. His usually calm demeanor cracked under the weight of Victor's accusations. "Enough," he said, firmly, his voice cutting through the room like a blade. "Maya has proven herself time and again. If anyone has a problem with that, they can take it up with me." The room fell silent, all eyes fixed on Eric. Even Victor seemed taken aback by the intensity of his reaction. For Maya, the moment was both humbling and overwhelming. She appreciated Eric's defense, but the public confrontation left her feeling exposed, as though she were standing on shaky ground between two vastly different worlds. Later that evening, back at the hotel, Maya sat by the window, staring out at the canal below. The city lights shimmered on the water, but her mind was far from peaceful. Doubts swirled inside her. Doubts about whether she belonged in Eric's world. Doubts about the growing bond between them. And doubts about how much longer she could keep pretending this arrangement was purely professional. Eric found her there, his expression softening when he saw the troubled look on her face. "You okay?" he asked, sitting beside her. "I don't know," Maya admitted quietly. "I feel like I've stepped into something I wasn't prepared for. People are judging me, Eric. And maybe they're right to. I'm not cut out for this kind of life." Eric frowned, shaking his head. "Don't let them get to you. You've earned your place here, not because of me, but because of who you are. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." His words were meant to reassure her, but they only deepened the ache in her chest. It's not just about what others think, she said after a pause. It's about us. About whatever this is. She gestured between them, her voice trembling slightly. We come from completely different worlds, Eric. How can we bridge that gap? For a long moment, Eric didn't speak. He looked down, at his hands, then back at her, his blue eyes searching hers. I won't lie to you, Maya. This isn't easy for me either. I've spent years building walls around myself, keeping people at arm's length. But with you... He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. With you, those walls don't seem so important anymore. You make me want to be better, to trust again, to hope again. Tears pricked at the corners of Maya's eyes. She wanted to believe him, to let herself fall fully into this connection. But fear held her back. What happens when we go back home? When reality sets in? Your world, it's not mine, Eric. I don't know if I can fit into it. You don't have to change who you are, Eric insisted. That's what makes you special. You bring something real into my life, Maya. Something I didn't even realize I was missing until now. His confession left her breathless, filling her heart with both warmth and uncertainty. As much as she wanted to embrace this new chapter, she couldn't ignore the challenges ahead. Love alone wouldn't erase the differences between them, or the expectations of the world around them. By the time they boarded the flight back to the resort, Maya knew one thing for certain. Their journey together had only just begun. Whatever happened next, she would face it with courage, and with Eric by her side. But neither of them realized how soon they'd be tested, or how deeply their love would be put to the ultimate trial. The return to the Grand Horizon Resort felt like stepping back into a familiar rhythm, but everything had changed. Maya and Eric carried the weight of their unspoken feelings, each unsure of how to navigate the fragile balance between their personal connection and professional roles. Back in the hotel's polished hallways, whispers followed them, some curious, others judgmental. The media, tipped off by Victor's lingering resentment, began speculating about their relationship, painting Maya as a gold digger who had manipulated her way into Eric's life. One morning, Eric walked into the penthouse suite to find Maya sitting on the couch, staring at a tabloid headline that read, "Billionaire falls for hotel cleaner. Love or scandal?" Her hands trembled slightly as she set the paper down, her face pale. "I'm sorry," she said softly, her voice heavy with guilt. "I never wanted this kind of attention. Maybe it's better if I step away from everything." Eric knelt in front of her, taking her hands in his. "No, Maya, you're not running away because of what other people think. Let me handle this." True to his word, Eric held a press conference later that day. Standing before cameras and reporters, he spoke with unwavering conviction. "Maya Patel is not just someone who works for me. She's someone who has earned my trust and respect. She has contributed more to my business and to my life than anyone realizes. If you have a problem with her, then you have a problem with me." His declaration silenced the critics, but it also forced both of them to confront their future together. That evening, as they stood on the balcony overlooking the ocean, Eric turned to Maya with a quiet intensity. "I don't want to lose you," he said. "Not to fear, not to doubt, and certainly not to other people's opinions. Stay with me, Maya, not as my assistant, but as my partner." Tears filled Maya's eyes as she looked at him. "But your world, it's so different from mine. How do we make this work?" "We build a new world," Eric replied firmly. "One where we're equals, where your dreams matter as much as mine. I'll support you every step of the way, Maya. All I ask is that you trust me." With those words, Maya let herself believe in him, in them, and in the possibility of a shared future. Over the following weeks, Eric encouraged Maya to pursue her passion for languages, enrolling her in online courses and introducing her to contacts in the translation industry. In turn, Maya helped Eric reconnect with parts of himself he'd long neglected, his love for art, music, and simple joys. Their bond deepened, transforming not only their lives, but also the lives of those around them. The staff at the hotel, once skeptical of Maya's sudden rise, began to see her as an inspiration, a reminder that opportunities could come from unexpected places. Even Victor, though reluctant, eventually acknowledged Maya's contributions during a company meeting, offering a begrudging apology. Months later, Eric surprised Maya with tickets to Amsterdam, this time as a vacation rather than a business trip. As they strolled hand in hand through the cobblestone streets, Maya realized how far they'd come since that fateful day when she answered a call in Dutch. Back at the hotel, now clean of scandal and gossip, Maya took a moment to reflect. She thought about the woman she used to be, the invisible cleaner blending into the background, and smiled. That woman was still there, but she was no longer alone. With Eric by her side, she had found a place where she truly belonged. As the sun set over the horizon, casting golden light across the resort, Maya knew one thing for certain. Sometimes, life's greatest adventures begin with the smallest moments, like answering a dropped phone call.